I'm Judy Zelina. This is the Millcreek Government Channel. On our program today, we have our friend Judy Helcom. She's a retired registered nurse. Also joining us, we have Janice Ronan, and Janice is Penn State Extension educator. Thank you, ladies, for being on the program.
It's great to be
always
back.
A pleasure.
We always have some interesting subjects, and today we're going to be talking about something that I find very, very interesting: food swaps. And when Judy first presented this to me, I'm thinking, well, I like my food. I don't want to swap it. But
Good deal. Yeah,
I know.
I like
but they're
it.
here to tell us how changing my views can be a better way to healthier eating.
Absolutely. Why not?
Okay.
And it all starts with each of us individually, because we don't eat the same foods, we don't eat at the same places necessarily, but I think we sabotage ourselves too many times by immediately having the attitude like, no, I can't do that. That would never work with me. You don't even give it a chance. So Janice and I were talking and said, you know what, food swaps, let's do a show and tell, instead of all of this, we're always saying to people, try this, do that, but let's show some living examples.
Janice, don't you think people are kind of hesitant to do some type of food swaps because they're afraid it's going to be bland? I mean, they like the taste and the texture of what they're eting right now.
Possibly.
Yeah,
right.
and I think maybe that's one big hurdle as you're starting out to kind of get over in that we're not suggesting that you substitute for something inferior that doesn't taste as good or isn't going to be as satisfying, but all of the healthy choices that we can talk about can be tasty, can be attractive to the eye, can taste good. So we're just asking, and maybe that's where the idea of a swap comes in. You know, we're swapping for something that's equally as attractive. It just has the added benefit of being a healthier choice.
And how about, it doesn't mean you have to change for life. You know, you're not committed just because you're trying something. Just for today, I'm going to do something different with the food one food that I choose. How about that? I mean, that's not overwhelming.
No.
And the other day I saw a program that was emphasizing plant-based nutritional eating, and it made a lot of sense. And I said to my husband, okay, just tomorrow we're going to say we're not eating meat, fish, or chicken. We're going to pick something plant-based. So we went out to the kitchen and explored, and there was a lot of stuff that is not exactly plant-based. So we both agreed we'll cut down the amounts of that till we get through our inventory, if you will. And the next time we go shopping, try something different. You see what I'm saying? But I went out to eat last night, and I said, oh, turkey dinner, that's what I want. And a little red light, that's how quickly it can happen. The little red light came on and said, Judy, remember, no meat? So I picked something else from the menu just for that one time, and it was not difficult. So I get back to the attitude, Judy.
Right.
You're your own worst, we're our own worst enemies, truly.
We have a lot of examples, but I see Janice over there has her famous plate.
Absolutely.
If you want to explain to our viewers again why this plate and the food you have on it is so important.
Again, even talking about how we're on automatic pilot, even the way that we tend to serve ourselves sets us up sometimes for some less healthy choices. Typically, I would say that most Americans think about the meat as they're serving themselves, and typically as Americans, we fill up half of our plate with meat. We get our starches in, whether it be the rice, the potatoes, or whatever, and then maybe if there's a little bit of room on the plate left, that's when we think about vegetables, and usually by then there's not much room left. Right. So I'm suggesting that we think about our plate a little bit differently. Think about the vegetables. Serve yourself vegetables. What we're aiming for is half of the plate to be vegetables. When we do that, then we automatically move the meat to the side of the plate there. Think about what that means. If we're cutting back on the portion of meat there, we're automatically reducing the amount of fat we're taking in. Fat translates into calories, so right there starting out, we've got a lower fat meal, chances are. When we increase the vegetables in our diet, diet. We're choosing low-calorie options that are loaded with antioxidants and the nutrition that keeps us healthy. Also, this is where the fiber is in our meal. So this is going to help us to feel full longer, so that a half an hour or an hour after our meal, we're not searching for those snack foods that get us into trouble. So just by making those changes on our plate, and then we've got the starches here on the quarter of the plate there, that has a tremendous impact in what we're going to be eating.
So really, to position things like you have shown there, that goes along with the plate idea, you are reducing portions
exactly
without pain, is the way I call it,
Yeah.
okay? So building on that, so we look at the plate, I look at using different little helps for myself to do things.
Such as?
So when I buy like fruit cups, for instance, or
Okay.
applesauce in cups,
Okay.
typically it's a half cup serving. But I save those because then when I know I want something else that's a half a cup, I automatically can serve it in there sometimes or use that as a gauge to put on the plate. How much is a half a cup? Very painless way.
Good idea.
How about meatloaf? You fix meatloaf, picture in your minds the big typical meatloaf pan that you use.
Yes.
How about just putting it in a smaller, to begin with when you're fixing it, it's going to cook faster, more toward what the portion size is going to be on that plate eventually. You see what I'm saying?
What a great idea.
Okay, this is my absolute favorite though.
Okay.
A shot glass,
All
1
right.
ounce.
Okay.
Did the experiment with my husband. We both love nuts, especially almonds. So typically, what does he do? He goes in the bag, takes a handful, puts them in a paper towel, and then enjoys himself, right? So I said, okay, I come walking in, took 2 of these shot glasses and filled them each with the nuts. And I come walking in, and what do you think his response was? I said, here's dessert, honey. And he looks at me and says, you have got to be kidding. And I said, would you like nuts? Of course, I love nuts. There is a serving. So you can either take it or leave it. And he said, well, I'll take it. Now it's automatic. It's a habit for us. It was a shock at first. It was too little in the amount, but we did it.
But you know, sometimes too, we're so busy eating these large quantities of food that we don't slow down enough to really enjoy them. So if you know that this is all you're going to have, I bet you're going to take it nut by nut and really enjoy each nut. So in the end, you may get a lot more enjoyment out of it.
And it makes it fun, too.
Right.
You know, something different. And remind yourself, none of us wants to change, ever. I don't care who you are and how disciplined you think you are. We fight change no matter what.
See, you know, she's looking right at me when she was saying
No, this is a human condition.
Yeah, but that is true.
But anyway.
It is true, and you're making it a little less painful.
Exactly.
Well,
Now,
and a lot of the utensils and the dishes and that we use kind of set us up for failure because we tend to fill them up.
Right.
And how many of us, too, used to cook for 4 or 5 people? You talk
you
about the
go.
meatloaf recipe
Excellent.
that you make.
Yeah.
And children are grown and out of the house, and it's now just 1 or 2 of us.
Yes,
But you're
and you're
still
still
making that
picking the
same
same.
meatloaf.
Exactly.
And you know what? You're eating it all, too.
Yes, right.
Okay. So some of the tricks, like Judy said, and you know, even think of the mindset of, okay, I'm still going to make that meatloaf recipe, but I'm going to portion it in individual containers and put half of it in the freezer.
That's it.
So next time I
Right.
don't feel like cooking, I can pull that out and have
and you
dinner
don't
ready.
have to have 3 days
Right.
worth of leftovers necessarily. This is my absolute favorite. My uncle was a junkie with these TV dinners over the years. And I said, I got an idea. I'll take a weekend, fix my typical meals, but put it in this container, and all I have to do is put it in the microwave and reheat it. Now, that saves a lot of time, effort. There's only so much that's going to fit in here. You see what I'm saying? So that has worked over the years.
These are wonderful ideas. We have got a lot of items in front of us. So, ladies, share with our viewers some ideas of food swaps that you have here.
Okay, starting here in that, you know, juice is a healthy food, and so we get tricked into thinking, well, if a little bit is healthy and I drink it throughout the day, then I'm going to be a lot healthier. Right. It's not that juice is an unhealthy food, it just can also have a lot of calories that come along with us, and we drink it pretty quickly.
Yes.
So we're taking in those calories, but you know what, at the end of that glass of juice, we may not be satisfied, so we go looking for something else. I'd suggest stick with the whole fruit instead of. The advantage of the whole fruit is that in addition to all of the nutrition and the vitamin C that we're getting with our glass of juice, we're also getting fiber along with it. Fiber, we know from previous shows, helps us to feel full, just like we talked about the vegetables here.
Yes,
so it's going to take a little bit longer to eat, so we're going to be more satisfied. It's going to fill us up a little bit more, so that we're not going to go looking for something in a half an hour. So think the whole fruits instead of the juices. This is another product that maybe people haven't found on their shelves. They're called deli flats. And one of the things when you're looking to make a sandwich, especially people that may need to watch their carbohydrate content because of their diabetes and that, find that 2 slices of bread takes them along to a lot of the carbohydrates in their diet, and maybe by the time they end up making their sandwich, more than what they'd really like to have in a meal. This is 2 flats of bread there. They come already sliced for you. Makes a nice little sandwich. You're also, because they tend to be a little bit smaller in size than a traditional slice of bread, you're going to load it down with a little bit less lunch meat, maybe a little bit less cheese in there. Also, by reading labels, you'll find that a lot of the deli flats are very high in fiber. So again, helping you to feel full, helping to slow down your digestion there. So
I have seen those in the grocery store, and I've passed them by, not really realizing what the benefit is of them.
So it did, okay, when you say passed it by, because when you said, is
what's
it really
the
that
difference?
different?
Yeah, what's the difference? And I went and picked
Okay.
up a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Didn't take the
Creatures
time.
of habit. There you go. I
Which
did
we
the
are.
same thing. They'll
Okay.
go down the bread aisle.
Right.
You're automatically going to the place where you usually go, and then you spy something else. But typically, it's heavier toward, I don't have time, I'm busy, I got an
Right.
appointment, so you pass it up.
Okay.
But while you're talking about those flats, this is an interesting item I came across. It is PB2 is the name of it, and you say, huh? Peanut butter 2, don't ask me why the 2 exactly. But this is a powdered peanut butter. Now, those of you that are watching might say, powdered peanut butter, that's it. Get yourself past that point, little different. All you do is add water, okay? And it's a little more expensive, I will tell you this, but the taste is fantastic. And instead of 15 grams of fat, which is typically what you have for the most peanut butters, this is 1.5 grams of fat, and also less carbohydrate. So why not try it? Now, a person might say, hey Judy, I'm on a limited budget. Think of whatever else you're eating, because you're probably spending the money anyway. Let's invest it in something that is better for you.
You know, I am going to try this because we talked earlier. I love peanut butter. A day doesn't go by that I don't have peanut butter. So,
Right. It even comes
I'm
in
gonna
a
check this
chocolate
out.
flavor. They even have a chocolate flavor.
I don't know. Peanut butter's peanut butter to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
You can't deviate too much from it.
Well, okay.
Well, you know, when you talk about cost, Judy, and
Yes.
another good point to think about when we come back to our plate here, what is typically the most expensive part of a meal is the meat. So if we're moving meat to the side of our plate here,
You're
we're
automatically
cutting
saving
down on the
costs.
cost of
You
that
got
meal.
it.
And
That's
so
on
that
point.
gives you a little bit more in your food budget for products like the peanut butter, or maybe vegetables that will add interest to your meal that might be a little bit more expensive. It's amazing, isn't it, how people will go and I mean, I include myself in this too, will reach for that bag of potato chips that now might, and we know that that's a favorite of mine, so I use that. That might be $3 a bag and you don't think anything about it, or for people that are pop drinkers and that. But yet when bananas are 10 cents a pound more at the store,
Right.
everybody says, I'm not buying
expensive.
those. They're
Right.
59 cents a pound.
Yes.
So we
This is
need
it.
to rethink where we need to spend our money and what we're getting for it.
Exactly. The other thing, the reason I brought this can of peas is to say, actually, I had forgotten to bring the frozen peas to kind of talk about the differences. But when you can choose frozen vegetables, much better off than getting the canned.
Why?
Because there's more sodium typically in this. Fiber-wise,
they're considered to be comparable in most cases.
I'm trying to think what else. But anyway, just from the perspective of that information, it's better to go to the frozen. Now, from a cost perspective, frozen versus canned.
Sometimes it depends upon the time of the year. So sometimes, you know, in certain times of the year, one might be a little bit more cost effective than the other. If you find yourself buying canned vegetables, another technique is to rinse off the liquid and that to get some of the sodium.
Right.
What do you have
the
to
other
tell us
thing,
about these?
well, you know how most people love pasta of one sort or another, but we always have talked in our previous shows about whole grain. Trying to use more of that in our meal plans. And these are two examples. There's a whole grain thin spaghetti, and people could immediately say, yeah, but look at that because it's got a brownish appearance. When you put the sauce and whatever you're going to put on that, you're not even going to notice it. And this is just another version of a whole wheat blend pasta, both made with whole wheat flour, and that's
Very
what we're
important.
after.
And thankfully, those products, when they were first introduced on the market, they were a little bit pricier now.
Oh, yes, right.
And sometimes they still can be, but I have noticed that as they've reached the general market, that frequently they're on sale, or that the cost difference is not very great.
And the fiber part of what you're going to get out of this is going to help you to stay fuller, so you won't be going after these other foods like the potato chips or your weakness. I haven't gathered. What is your weakness?
Chocolate.
As far as chocolate is your weakness.
They say dark chocolate's good for you.
Okay. This is neat. Okay, eggs. You know, we went through the phase of eggs are good for you, you know, the protein and all this good nutrition in the yolk. Then we go through the phase which is, oh my gosh, heart disease from eggs. Well, this is an ordinary large egg, but in the supermarket one day I saw this and I said, this is egg whites, but the name of it is garden vegetable. Out of this world. I am not kidding you. To make an omelet out of that or just scramble it, add extra peppers and onions or tomatoes on top of it, and half of the calories of an egg. So, yeah, is it going to take, well, is the time element going to be too much? I don't know if people would say, well, yeah, but you got to mess around with that. It's going to take an effort no matter how you look at it.
I love eggs. I mean,
try
I really
that,
do.
though.
I love eggs and omelets.
Out of nowhere.
But think of what you're saving yourself in some of the extra chopping of the vegetables and all that. So
there you
I
go,
kind of
too.
almost think of that as a little bit of a fast food, you know, because it's got some of the work for me done already.
Yes, exactly. And then we're back to my favorites, the containers there. Buy them that way. Okay, instead of getting the cans of your fruit or pears or whatever, and then save the containers.
There you go. Okay.
The package next to it, which is the Alfredo mix, that's a garlic Alfredo to put over noodles or pasta or whatever.
Right.
And I thought, how can I lower the fat? Because there is some fat in it.
Right.
Just use water instead of milk. And I said, it'll probably never thicken. That's not true. It did. It's fine. I saved the calories and saved the fat.
That's a great tip because I love Alfredo.
There you go. So
Okay.
let's see, what else haven't we? Is that okay to get into that? Okay. So here's another faux pas that I went to the grocery store and I saw Fiber One. So what do you think came into my mind? Gotta be good, loaded with fiber.
So healthy, the best way to go.
Exactly. And so I said, gotta be better than my Aunt Jemima, even though it says lower in carbs, right?
Correct.
So I serve it up, tasted delicious, so my husband's fine with that. I turned the package around. Too late now, though, because I already brought it in the home, which I told you guys, gotta use the food label at the store, not wait till you get home, okay? So, this is not the better choice compared to this. This actually ends up being a better choice. So it's reading the labels that we always talk about.
It is reading the labels. Be careful when you see fiber. Be careful when you see whole wheat. Just be careful.
Right.
You know, it might not be a good food swap.
That's
absolutely
it.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It always comes back to reading that label,
Right.
doesn't it? And
Right.
that's where the choices really need to be made.
Now, what are some of the resources that our viewers can go to get some more tips?
This
on
I
food
found
swaps?
accidentally. It's called Clean Eating. It caught my eye, and some really neat ideas in there. So you can get that I happen to get at Walmart. This is a fat and calorie counter if you really
Okay.
are into the fat and want to reduce that. This is excellent. It's put out by Cooking Light, and it gives you the various foods that are in the supermarket and what are the better choices.
Oh,
So
great
that would
idea.
be excellent for food swaps. For diabetic individuals, there's Diabetic Cooking, and if you call Janice, I will make sure that she gives you a card that'll entitle you to a free trial, a free issue of that particular with recipes.
Janice, how can our viewers then get a hold of you?
Okay, they can give me a call at 825-0900. My extension is 229. That's 825-0900, extension 229. And we also, kind of to work with today's program and today's theme, Judy, we also have another handout that gives some suggestions of some of the things that we've been talking about today. So, you know, lists, all right, if you were thinking about eating this or using this in a recipe, here's another substitute that might work for you. And it even goes so far as to tell you, all right, how much fat and how much calories might you be saving by making those changes.
And this is a website?
No, this is a handout that
Oh, a handout.
people
When they
call will be glad to put
yeah.
in the mail.
Okay. Sure. All right.
Because what we're really talking about here too is the power of making small changes.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's so important, and kind of have to wrap it up here, but I do want to point out, we have stressed this. Take baby steps.
Right.
You will reach your goals. You will succeed. You know, if you decide to take on the world overnight, you're setting yourself up for failure most of the time.
And say, just for today,
Just
I can
for
try
today.
one of these
And then once in a
things.
while, look in the rearview mirror and see all those changes that you've made. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Wow, I've done a good job.
Right.
And pat yourself on the back. Great ideas, ladies. Great tips. Again, some great resources. Judy, thank you so much for coming on the
You're
program.
very welcome.
And Janice, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
And we'll
Setting
be back.
the table.
for
I know
sure.
you'll be back. I still want to do another program too, because we've talked about nutrition labels. Very, very important.
Yes.
And still to this day, even though we talk about them and others talk about them, people just don't understand
Yes.
them. So we
Right.
need to know, you know, what's important to look for.
Right.
Ladies, thank you so much. Again, it's
Judy.
been a pleasure.
Thank you, Judy.
Viewers, any questions, give Janice a call. Thank you for watching the Millcreek Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.